on The Big Debate, is the curriculum fit for the 21st century? Hello and welcome to the programme. What's the point of the curriculum? Is it more important to provide a foundation of knowledge or to teach analytical skills? In this online age, is there any point in spending so much time learning facts when you could be learning about citizenship or relationships or how to manage an overdraft? These questions and many like them have been occupying government and experts as we try to remake the curriculum for the 21st century, with changes such as the new Key Stage 3 curriculum, diplomas and the outcome of the primary review. Schools are facing a major shake-up in both what they teach and how they teach it. But are these changes going to help deliver the education that's needed for modern Britain? Today on The Big Debate, we're in northwest London at the Capital City Academy, itself a product of big change in recent years, the academy system and its freedom to diverge a bit from the national curriculum. On our panel are Philip O'Here, Principal of the Capital City Academy, Mick Waters, Director of Curriculum at the QCA, Professor Alan Smithers, Director of Buckingham University's Centre for Education and Employment Research, Saira Khan, perhaps best known as the runner-up in the first series of The Apprentice, now a TV presenter and entrepreneur in her own right, and Matthew Taylor, Chief Executive of the Royal Society for the Encouragement of Arts, Manufactures and Commerce, the RSA. And in our audience, a range of experts, business people, teachers, parents and pupils, all ready for today's big debate. So let's begin by getting a quick response from our panel to a fairly simple question. What is the point of a curriculum, Philip?
I believe a curriculum should be preparing young people with the personal qualities needed for life in a liberal democracy and an increasingly technological future. So it's about knowledge, understanding and competencies needed to understand and operate in the world.
Mick?
The curriculum should inspire, it should challenge, it should help youngsters to understand the value of learning to themselves and to society. And we should see the curriculum as not just the national curriculum, but the entire planned learning experience, the lessons, the events, the routines, and what youngsters do after and beyond school.
Alan?
We need a way of setting out what no child should miss out on. Now, it's very important how we go about that. Over the past 20 years, it's all got very complicated. You need to concentrate actually on the essentials. So I think no one would disagree that young children need to be taught how to handle words and numbers properly. What words, what numbers, to what level to be tested. Just focusing on the essentials is difficult enough. If you try and embrace the whole curriculum, it gets out of hand, as it has done, I think.
Saira Khan?
I think the curriculum should allow children to give access to subjects that will develop their understanding of the world they live in, give them skills for work, and also give them the will to learn throughout their life. You know, learning shouldn't just finish at school. You develop yourself for life throughout your lifetime, really.
And Matthew Taylor?
I think a curriculum should give young people the knowledge, the skills, competences, self-confidence they need, but it should also be as flexible as possible to allow those who deliver it to be creative. It should engage young people, and most of all, it should encourage people to love learning and want to carry on learning.
OK, well, thank you for that. So differing viewpoints on the point of a curriculum, and with so much pressure on schools to equip pupils for modern life, it's perhaps no surprise that the curriculum is facing change. Knowledge has never been more easily available. Our lives are dominated by information and technology that's evolving quicker than ever. So how can we ensure our education system keeps up with the 21st century student? Just what is the key to engaging them and encouraging them to learn? Our national curriculum has come a long way since it was introduced in 1988 under Margaret Thatcher. For more than 20 years it's been praised, criticised and subjected to countless reviews. But which is the correct version? The former Director of Inspection at Ofsted, Sir Jim Rose, says more needs to be done in primary schools. His idea of a curriculum built around 6 areas of learning aims to encourage cross-curricular teaching. But will it yield positive results, or merely complicate what some might call an already overcrowded curriculum. After last summer's marking blunder, secondary school students are now subject to less testing. SATs for 14-year-olds have been abolished, and they now have the option of doing a diploma. But will the qualification, which promises to offer a more practical, hands-on way of gaining skills, be enough to equip students for the outside world? And in an age where knowledge can be acquired at the click of a mouse, should the skills we teach be more about finding, analysing and presenting information in the correct way, and less about memorising and working under exam conditions? Or do we risk ending up with a future generation who lack an understanding of the basics? Matthew Taylor, let's begin with you. Your organisation, the RSA, has developed recently its own ethos of education. You've even set up an academy yourselves. What do you believe you're delivering that the curriculum doesn't? What's different?
Well, we have a curriculum called Opening Minds that's now been taken up by over 200 schools, and we sponsor an academy to see if we can extend that from Key Stage 3, where it's normally focused right through the school. I think at the heart of Opening Minds is the idea that young people should acquire knowledge through competencies, through the development of the kinds of cross-cutting skills which they need in all subjects. So things like communication, teamworking, research, those kinds of competencies. It doesn't mean you don't learn knowledge, but you learn knowledge through developing those cross-cutting competencies, increasingly the kinds of things which employers say they want. And I think the other thing about Opening Minds as an approach is it's one which seeks to engage learners themselves in understanding the learning process and feeling that they are partners in that learning process. And my observation about young people now is that they don't want learning done to them. They want to feel that learning is something which they understand and they're part of. And approaches like Opening Minds start from that principle.
So it's not handing down tomes and telling people to learn it. It's more about skills.
You know, you learn the knowledge, but you learn the knowledge more in the context of using it to solve problems, in the context of learning cross-cutting skills, but as I say, in a more discursive way, so that learners get to understand why it is they're acquiring that knowledge and how it can be applied.
Alan, are they on the right lines?
I don't think so. You have to say, why do you go to school anyway? Why is it reasonable to require people to be there? Well, it's to enable them to make sense of really what is something rather extraordinary, which is being on this small planet for 70 years. Now, over time, we've worked out various ways of making sense of the world. You know, what we accept as true and what we don't accept as true. Science, history, mathematics, each has their own way of establishing the truth. Now, that is what we, I think, want to pass on to future generations, the way we make sense of the world. So, really, the curriculum in the secondary school needs to be organised around the subjects. All the sorts of things that Matthew is wanting to achieve can be achieved through the subjects, but unless you have something firmly grounded in what we need to know about living a life, then it won't work.
Let's go to the audience and find out what employers want. Fiona Murray is from the CBI. Which side of this debate are you?
We very much feel that young people need transferable skills, so they need those employability skills, those literacy and numeracy skills, so that they can get on in life and in the coming year get into a very competitive labour market.
So it's actually basic skills that are the problem for you?
Basic skills are essential to enter the labour market, and too few young people actually have them.
OK, Katie Ivans from the Campaign for Real Education.
Mm-hmm. I'm with Professor Smithers on this. I think it's absolutely essential that children learn subjects. We are fortunate in having subjects come down to us over many years, and we're talking about what we need in the 21st century. I believe that not only are we going to need these subjects for the 21st century, we're going to need them for the 22nd and probably the 23rd century. There are bodies of knowledge that have built up over time, and they do, as Professor Smith has said, they are contained in subjects that we call history, geography, English, science. It's absolutely crucial that children learn, first of all, the basics of these, and that they are developed, first of all, through primary school, by the way. So I'm not happy about what Professor Rose is proposing, and certainly they should be developed in a very great way through secondary school, so that they will have their own aspirations and their own ambitions, and they will be fit to pursue those ambitions.
Filippo here, I mean, is this a false choice? I mean, every school should do both, shouldn't it?
That was exactly what I was going to say. you teach competencies through subjects, you teach subjects through competencies. We are using an opening minds approach in Year 7 for part of the week. We think that's a very important way of bridging primary and secondary, but also establishing some key competencies in our school for our learners that they will then use across the whole of their curriculum. But I think a really important part of the secondary school curriculum is learning history from somebody who's passionate about history and becoming a competent historian. How far you continue that, when you allow children to specialise, are all the very difficult decisions that we wrestle with all the time. But I think part of what we must keep is a subject-based curriculum, but not at the expense of those competencies. And in the work we've done with our gifted and talented students here, they certainly have experienced a very fragmented curriculum where subjects aren't joined up. So I think the foundation of competencies is going to be a very important part of how we develop our curriculum here.
Do you want to come back, Alan Smithers?
Yeah, I mean, the problem I have with skills and competences...
Sorry, I wasn't talking about skills. I think skills are quite a narrow thing. Competencies are about dispositions, about ways of thinking, about attitudes, as well as about skills. And they seem to me to be profoundly the things that industry needs. And if we're going to create employable future learners, they need to have these emotional as well as skill-based dispositions developed.
I was going to say skills and competences. And the trouble I have with them is that they have a now you see it, now you don't quality. I mean, if someone knows how to discover about the world scientifically or historically, and they accumulate a body of knowledge, you can see that it's actually happening. But when I see skills and competences taught in schools, it tends to be a project, and various things are done, and then somebody comes in and says, I discern that these skills and competences have been developed. Really, this is a rather vague way of going about it. Now, I agree that literacy and numeracy are fundamental. Whether we call them subjects or skills, I don't really mind. Unless people can handle words and numbers properly, they don't have the start in life that we want everybody to have. I would just say, though, let me just round off something. Life is about much more than employability. You're wanting to open up the possibility of living a life, one of which is working, but that isn't the only aspect.
Okay,
so if you define it totally in terms of employability, you're narrowing down the experience far too far.
Okay.
But let's take this point that you made about the kind of ephemeral nature of competencies. In my experience, when people acquire little tiny nuggets of knowledge in a narrow subject base without understanding any possible relevance of that, the likelihood of them retaining it is very, very low. I mean, I think, again, I don't know anecdotal, but I think of my own children, I ask them how much they can remember of the knowledge they were taught in a traditional curriculum in Year 7 and Year 8, now they're in Year 10 and Year 11. It's minuscule, because it wasn't, as it were, on a washing line. It wasn't associated for them with problem solving. They didn't acquire a set of skills which they felt they could use in the world. They got little nuggets of knowledge, they remembered them for 3 or 4 days. Because they were of no use, they then chucked them out.
I want to hear from some of the students in our audience. What I kind of want to know is, do you think you spend too much time learning things? When, you know, things that you can easily look up on a computer?